Welcome to our podcast at Health Tech Academy. My name is Shamsah, and I'm the CEO of HTA. And today we have a very special guest with us, Stacy, who is our National Workforce Director. And we are going to be covering a wide range of topics today, from talking a little bit about WIOA Workforce Investment Act, and then moving back and forth into the various ways we help our students through different training grants, different funding grants, and talking a little bit about all the various resources the students also have available at their disposal by working with Health Tech Academy. So, welcome, Stacy.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you as well. Thank you so much for making the time.
Of course.
So tell us, for our audience, a little bit about yourself and your background.
I will. Thank you. So, I've been in what we call workforce development for probably almost 20 years at this point. And I've really had the privilege of working on all sides of it. So everything from working with the education providers, working at a state level across California, and the federal level with Department of Labor, Education, and Commerce. And all of those players have a role within workforce development in training, supporting, and helping people to get the skills they need to get into jobs. And so what I've done is kind of built a network of partners we can really leverage to make sure that any student who comes to us gets as much support as they need financially, as well as on the back end of their program, getting the jobs that they need. At the end of the day, all the work I've ever done, and I know the work at HTA, is all about getting people hired. And so that's why I'm just thrilled to be at the company at a time when we're growing and expanding and offering our program into more states and communities. Because as you know, especially our special area of health tech careers, they're in demand everywhere in this country.
Yes. No, I completely agree. And you touched on such great topics so quickly. But definitely we are in this area, or I would say in this era where, there is a lot of growth within healthcare for various reasons, and we'll get into that. But at the same time, I think the resources that the students have at their disposal, or maybe awareness, it's somewhat lacking. So let's talk a little bit about that. Can you tell me, Stacy, what is your understanding of the Workforce Investment Act? Just a little bit more about what is WIOA, or in the past known as WIA.
Yeah. Well, so we call it, in the business, we call it WIOA. So you'll hear that silly word, maybe. But honestly, the average American citizen doesn't know about it. If you're in government or in one of these support organizations and some educational institutions, you know about WIOA, because it is basically a grant fund available to any American in the United States who need to develop greater skills or even get a college degree. Now, there are some qualifications for it, and I'll run through that in a little bit. But basically, you're right. No one, both on the student side and the employer side, very few people really know or understand WIOA. They think of it as this government program, and they shy away from it because maybe it's bureaucratic, or worse yet, you have to divulge information about yourself that you're not comfortable doing. And so a part of what we have to do as just being part of this industry is help to educate and demystify the process and open the doors to not only the state and federal WIOA fund opportunities, but also the other supporting players who are there to help people get the skills and education they need to get the jobs that they want.
All right, Stacy, thank you so much. Tell me a little bit about how a citizen would take advantage of the WIOA funds.
That is one of my favorite questions, because a lot has changed since the pandemic. You used to have to go into a government office, talk to someone behind a desk, give them information that you may not want to give them, and then you're sent away to try and to wait to find out if you qualify. Now you go to a government website, and it's usually like the unemployment office, even like workman's comp and workman's insurance website lead you to WIOA, or you can just type in a Google search for how do I get WIOA in my town or city, and it'll lead you right there because it is a government website and it'll be very simple. And what they've done is they've created this checklist. There's no judgment, there's no intense personal information that they ask for, and you immediately see in going through that process what they're looking for. So they ask questions like, are you a veteran? How old are you? What are your circumstances? Are you unemployed, underemployed, a foster child, a homemaker, housewife, mom who hasn't worked for 20 years? Were you just displaced from your job? Or are you just simply trying to start a new career? All of those things are open doors for people. And once you answer those questions, usually the thing they really want to know is, are you over 18?
Okay.
Are you eligible to work in the United States?
Okay.
And that's not just being an American citizen. That's like, are you eligible? They don't ask for that proof at that time. And if you can provide income information, they ask for that. And that's because one of the lowest entries to this program that has very few barriers is if you're under $15,000, $20,000 a year income, you pretty much qualify for WIOA in almost every state in this country. And because WIOA is designed to help people earn a better living, contribute more to their community and the tax base of the state they live in, and find a great job, all they want to do is help you do that. So there's no judgment. I want to say that again. They look at the form and then they tell you within like 5 or 7 days online if you qualify. If you qualify, then you have to do a little bit of work. Because if you're not talking to a case manager in one of these offices, you need to find a program that you want to participate in. You need to figure out who can give you this training and who can handle the financial end of this. Because the other great thing is there's no outlay of costs on your end. As a student or a potential student, you come in, you fill out the form, you get approved. And then if you can identify what course you want to take or what career you want to pursue, then you find a training provider, and the WIOA office pays that training provider directly on your behalf for you to get the training. And so there's really no financial risk.
Yeah.
The downside is you can only do it kind of once in each phase of your career is the best way to say it.
Okay.
So I don't know that there's really a waiting period, but 5 to 6 years in between WIOA applications, you can usually reapply and get another skill set, unless you're getting trained through your employer. And that's a whole other conversation that maybe we'll have time to talk about later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to kind of go a little bit deeper, are the qualifications the same state by state in the entire country?
No. Well,
Okay.
the primary ones, 18, your income, are you eligible? Those 3 off the bat, that's everything. That gets you in the door. Every state has different limits to the amount of money that they will fund.
Okay.
Different training providers that are local to their office and their employers. And some requirements around some of the diversity issues that you might be able to qualify for, because those officers or states have a focus on meeting the needs of an indigenous population or veterans near a military base and things like that. That is actually what is thought to be the most complicated part about WIOA. And that's why, as a student, you want to work with a human being who's trying to help you. So you could walk into the WIOA office, the workforce office, and get the help you need. Or once you get approved and you can start looking around for the occupations you want, you'll find a list of the schools or the boot camps that that can train you. And then somebody in that admissions office will work with you most of the time to make that transition seamless. At Health Tech Academy, that's kind of one of our strengths, and one of the kindest things that we do is we are with our students until they get enrolled and get started from an admissions perspective. Obviously, our program, there's somebody assigned to a shelter to shuffle with them through the process. And then there are coaches that are, again, human interaction. And I bring that up really kind of a little early in our conversation, but to really reinforce that while this is online training and it is self-paced, in our case in particular, you're a human being in a process that has human touch points. And I think that really helps to kind of, again, demystify the process and ensure a greater outcome, greater potential for graduation and placement in jobs.
Awesome. So to talk about this, from a student perspective, the idea would be if they wanted to utilize the WIOA funding source, and they have the basic qualifiers, they can come into their local board and they can fill out the form online, essentially.
Yeah.
And you said within a couple of weeks they would know if they get approved or if they get qualified.
If they qualified and will be approved.
Okay.
So they qualify, they can get WIOA funding. Now let's figure out where that funding comes from. That's kind of the next phase.
And do they work with a counselor during that time?
They can.
Okay.
That's really the best thing. So here's, again, painting a picture. There is a state workforce development board in every state in the country,
Okay.
and Guam and Puerto Rico. So it's definitely a part of the U.S. Workforce and Education Department across the country. There are also over 600 supporting offices. They're called WIBs, and those are non-government organizations that partner with the workforce development government agencies to help open the doors so you really have places all around your community that you can walk in and get support. So personally, I recommend that that's where you go.
Okay.
Because I think that it will make anybody feel a little more comfortable that they are really signing up for a legitimate program, that this is going to be a path that hundreds of thousands of people have taken before them. Now, if you don't want to do that, you fill out the application online. It's like everything else. You can get everything you need and you'll get connected. Once you get connected to a training provider like Health Tech Academy, and while I say it's about Health Tech Academy, any training provider, school, boot camp, they're going to want to talk to you. You're going to want to know it's real, and they're going to want to know that you are who you say you are. So there will be a human interaction sooner rather than later.
Well, thank you, Stacy. So just a question before we talk a little bit about the school in more detail. How does an individual know which career or which training program to sign up for?
Well, that's the best place to start is to try to understand what's available where you live, what jobs are available, who's hiring without having to dig too deeply. If you go to one of these workforce boards or WIBs or websites and really look at who's hiring and for what careers, you'll be able to say, oh, I don't know what that is. That's probably the most common. Oh, I want to work in hospitals, or I want to work in cornfields, whatever it is. Then they can help you connect the dots between what the jobs are, what the training is, and the requirements are. And then that puts you on a path to then again connect with someone, talk, ask all the questions about what that job really looks like, what it pays, what kind of hours, all of that. So you know what you're investing in,
Right.
not just your future, but a future you really want.
So is it safe to say that the local offices or somewhere on their local office website There will be a list of in-demand careers that are relevant and something that's sustainable for an individual to get into for at least the near term.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a core reason for each of these individual offices to function at a local level. They know what the job opportunities are, they know what the pay scales are,
Okay.
and they know really what's in demand. There's nothing worse than going to school and learning something that nobody wants you to do. I have a degree in marine biology and I live in a landlocked state. So I know what that's like. And a local region or just even at the larger state level, they know who the employers are, what they're
Mhm.
looking for, and they can really help you kind of do the pre research and understand that landscape.
I think that for an individual, the most difficult step would probably be realizing that they are ready to go back, or they need to upskill, or they need to reskill.
Right.
Um, kind of taking that first step. So, can you walk us through how your school supports a student or an individual to transition into becoming a student?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing for us in particular at Health Tech Academy is we understand that WIOA and workforce development landscape. We know what occupations we excel at training, and we know what those jobs look like. So you come to us, maybe you know exactly what you want. Maybe you saw our website and you know there's lots of things and you want to understand more. The minute you reach out to us, we connect with you again, a human being on the other end of the phone, and we'll answer your questions. We'll help you understand how long it'll take to do the training, what some of the qualifications are in that job, the certificates you get, and then how long it might take for you to get started and start earning a living. There are a lot of conversations we can have to say, well, do you like working with machinery? Do you like numbers? Do you like interacting with patients? Do you see yourself in a doctor's office? All sorts of questions that help us to identify what you think you'll be comfortable with. And then we dive into finding it, suggesting it, providing more information, and then kind of on the other side, really connecting the dots between who you are, where you are, and what you want to be.
So, would you say that there are quizzes or assessments that a students can take to help them figure out exactly which career path they should land into?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, non judgmental, more informational. And part of that is because every work environment requires something different, right? If you're going to be a program and sit in a dark room or in your bedroom and do your job, you may not need the interpersonal skills that some of the health tech careers require. And yet, some of those skills that we train for don't require a lot of interpersonal activity. So, we do test for that. Well, not test, but we probe for that and try to make sure that we create the best fit for you and paint the clearest picture.
Amazing. And can you walk us a little bit through for our listeners how Tech Academy provides all the necessary support so that a student stays on track and completes the program? And then touch a little bit about positions and job placement as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I might throw it back to you to talk about the occupation because I know you've been in this space a lot longer than me. But from a support perspective, the program is one where once we get you all set up, you know what you want to be for the rest of your life. You've selected us as your training provider. We've got your funding taken care of. We then onboard you into our system. You're assigned a student services case manager, if you will, and they're with you through the whole journey. You're given online links, which everyone seems to be comfortable with and familiar with, and you can immediately delve into the agenda, the curriculum, if you will, and we give it to you in bite-sized pieces. Some courses are 16 different segments, some are 8. You get to go at your own pace. They're designed to be 15 hours a week. You can do it in 40 hours a week and get out faster, but we want you to learn and absorb the information. So there's a quiz at the end of those sections, chapters, if you will. And if you don't pass, you can talk to your coach, who is a subject matter expert, someone who's in that job, who can answer your questions more from a real world perspective, not an academic perspective. And then you can go back and take the test, that particular quiz again. You can't move forward in the curriculum until you get through the first, second, that you have to go in order, because everything builds, especially as you're working towards a certificate or getting all of the qualifications that you need. If you get stuck, you can ask for help. If you go too fast and you're like, I want to go back, you can do that. It's an online course. You control a lot of the elements. In the background, we're a very data-driven company. And so we're paying attention to, are you still engaged? Does it look like you're getting stalled? Do you have some challenges? And so we do what we can to human interaction to check in with you and see what's going on and how we can keep you moving forward, or correct anything that feels uncomfortable or answer any questions that you have. It's a lot like being in a regular in-person school where if you need help, you ask for it.
Amazing.
How our program works, I'd love to throw it back to you and help everyone understand more about the actual careers that we get people ready for, because that's kind of the secret sauce of Health Tech Academy.
Yeah. So before we kind of jump right into the programs and the different careers, I want to talk a little bit about the industry. So healthcare definitely has, over the years, you might have heard of shortages, various different types of shortages. Probably the most popular is the nursing shortage. So alongside that are allied healthcare workers. So these are individuals such as medical assistant, phlebotomist, medical billing and coding specialist. All these individuals make up the backbone of the healthcare system for the nation. And over the past years, there has been a decline in these positions. And when I say decline in positions, I don't mean that there are not job openings, rather decline in the number of people that want to enter the healthcare industry for these positions. And the reason for that has been a high burnout rate. And one of the reasons that we often hear is once there are individuals that enter into these fields. So some of the positions are medical billing and coding, medical assistant, phlebotomist. These are the allied healthcare positions that are the backbone of our healthcare system in the country. And we have seen, or we have heard from individuals, that it's a pretty high burnout industry, because it is an industry that requires individuals to be available for certain shift hours, and not everybody may be in a situation be able to come in on those times. So we've seen lesser number of people getting into the industry, but the number of positions that are open continuously are growing year on year, because we also have a certain number or certain percentage of people that are retiring every year. So what ends up happening that I wanted to touch on is, for example, dental assistant. It's a industry that's continuously growing in terms of openings and will continue to grow based on projections over the next 5 to 8 years. So it's a great time for somebody that wants to become a dental assistant to enter the industry. A lot of the dental offices are also wanting to provide on-the-job training. So you can come in essentially with your credentials, and the office will train you on the different processes and really ensure that you are successful in your role. And that's kind of where Health Tech Academy specializes. So alongside the training, which is available online and it's flexible, so it really caters to individuals that may be going in, that may have a position during the day where they're working, and then they may want to study at night, and they can do it asynchronous because it's available flexible, and it's available online. And they can schedule coaching sessions with mentors and instructors based on their capacity and when they want to, and the timing that they have available. However, once they go through the program, between the quizzes and going through the exam questions, about quarter to midway into the program, they are introduced to a career services team. These are career counselors and career coaches. They'll help the student really make them aware of the different positions that are open in their vicinity, that help them with resume writing, that help them with job interview prep and questions. So the student is ready in terms of answering those questions when they are called in for the interview. They also help with social profiling, such as LinkedIn updates and various different job boards, so the student can navigate and understand all the various different positions that are open and available to them. Alongside that, Health Tech Academy also has employers that they have partnered with. I'm not going to say that we have partnerships in every city, but we have quite a few different partnerships in the country where if there are openings, then students can apply via our career services team for those open positions. And as I mentioned, some of our partners, employer partners, are very open to having students get on-the-job training, so they realize that the student is coming in with the training as well as credentials, but may require that extra hand-holding when it comes to understanding the basic needs of the job.
Wow, that's great. I know that the work I've done over the years to have employers who understand this kind of on-the-job training, mentoring from within the company is such an important part of anybody trying not trying out, but starting a new career early in their career, regardless of their age. And so I love that that's a big part of our program. And I also really love that you brought this up because at the end of the day, from the workforce development offices to Health Tech Academy to our career coaches, what we want is to help people get jobs, to connect them to jobs, but also train them, coach them to understand how to go after that on their own, with or without our support, so that they are really changing their lives.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about how nonprofits can partner with WIOA programs.
Well, it's kind of like I said earlier, you've got the workforce development state offices, that's government. Then you have nonprofit organizations like these workforce boards who work at a local level to try and bring all the pieces together and connect the dots. And then you have philanthropic organizations, nonprofit organizations that are not government. And you have what are called community-based organizations. And those organizations are the connection between getting trained and job ready to getting to the job. So they have the relationships locally. They also have funds, usually, hopefully, that can be leveraged to help an employer offset some of their costs when they're bringing in a new hire. And another thing that I find is valuable but really necessary is most of those organizations have a mission. That mission can be very specific: more women, more people in their 30s, more people of color. It's really kind of a D&I, DEI initiative. But what that means is, as someone who's qualified in these programs, you now are part of a support system specifically for who you are and what you're looking for. And that, again, is what makes the difference between going out there on your own, putting your resume up on LinkedIn, and waiting for someone to call you.
Got it. Got it. I know that based on what you've mentioned, WIOA supports individuals between 18 and 64-ish. How do we support the youth or within this situation?
Yeah, that's actually a great segue off of the nonprofit organizations and support, because there are so many different areas of focus, right? So what we've done at Health Tech Academy is we've really embraced youth programs as well as the WIOA program, which allows us to serve most Americans. It's people from 14 to 64.
Okay.
And a youth in these youth programs in the U.S., from a government perspective, are 14 to 24. I know every 24-year-old out there does not think of themselves as a youth, but you are, and we're going to get you programs and funding and training. But the way WIOA works is, again, on a local level. They work with local high schools and training providers to make sure that when kids are in it from, let's say, junior high, junior in high school, all the way up through age 24, whether they're in any kind of educational program at all, that they get funding specifically to get them training and development to get that first job. And that's a little different from WIOA because, again, it's a lower age bracket, but also it can be a longer training program, not in more hours, but you can take it for 2 years in high school. We've developed programs where you can take programs in your junior year of high school. Maybe you can even do an internship that summer and then go into your senior year and finish off the training. These programs can be offered through, or described a little clearer through, like your career counselors at high school. And then you can get credits, or it can be an elective course or something like that.
Yeah.
And again, you're in high school. Let's start there. You're in high school. Why? Not just to learn, but to learn so that you know what you're going to be doing next. What a great way to start that. And as you were describing these careers in particular, we're not asking about getting a medical degree or getting really into science and technology. Well, yes, technology, but science and anatomy and all of that. You're going to specialize in an area that's kind of tech-driven. It can be, a phlebotomy, as you said earlier, or an X-ray technician, or a variety of things that don't necessarily touch on the medical aspect. It really is about being the backbone of that culture, if you will. And so we've designed our programs to give kids, to me, everybody's a kid. So let's say youth let's say 16 to 24, just to be really direct, because if you start at 14, you're not going to be eligible for a job until you're 18. And you won't be able to get, you'll be competing with older people, right? So start in your junior year of high school, take a 2-year program, and take 2 years to get through it. And then when you get out of high school, you're ready to hit the ground running. You're not going to go sign up for a community college. You're not going to go to college. You're going to start working in something that you now know how much you love, how good you are at it. One of the things we haven't really dived into deeply is all of our programs are about creating credentials, certifications, these recognitions that are recognized all over the country. Now, in healthcare, they can be different from state to state, different testing and certification bodies. You don't have to worry about that. We've done all that work. But you're not just learning something, you're being awarded, if you will, the badge of completion that is recognized across this industry, across the country. And that means you can go wherever you want once you get into this career path.
So, building off of that, does your programs also offer, is it externships, internships? I'm not sure. Mentoring programs. Can you elaborate on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we do. What we're trying to do, especially the youth programs, because that's a totally different candidate for a job, right? You have probably very little work experience. You may not actually feel comfortable being with people. You've never had a boss before. So the opportunities of these new jobs for youth or adults is what we consider like clinical hours or early job training hours so that you can get acclimated into the job. Those are most successful when you have a mentor or someone within the company who's watching what you're doing and helping you get through any hurdles, acclimate to the culture, but also to the job, and have a greater success for that. Now, in workforce development, we call them all sorts of things. An externship is can be a very defined program. An internship is usually something between phase 1 and 2 of your training, where you get to dabble and learn and really experience it. For us, the mentorship program, regardless of what you call it, really dovetails nicely with finishing your education. In some of these occupations, it's called a clinical, and there's very specific requirements about how many hours you need to complete. That's the stuff that we know in the background and we've designed into our programs. So you get started with us and we get you all the way through that phase.
Got it. So for the youth programs, are the mentoring sessions any different than perhaps somebody who's uh, an adult entering into the program?
I mean, it can be because it needs to be very specific to each of our candidates. I mean, we may have someone who's 40 years old and hasn't worked before. Like I said, like mom's kid's going off to school and she wants a new career or a career and she gets started. That she still may need the exact same training that a first-time 18-year-old needs. But it's really about those assessments we talked about earlier, the conversations all along the process, and really making sure that we help bring out the best in everyone so they succeed. So that can be career coaching, that can be communications coaching, and putting you into an organization where, again, someone's paying attention to how things are going for you. I mean, we all know, even though healthcare in particular is really fast paced, once you come into an organization, they want you to stay. They want you to succeed. And if they're bringing you in as an early career, first job candidate, they understand that you're going to need a little more of a safety net.
So are majority of the students entering into the program in that youth phase, or is it more of that adult, or it's a nice blend?
I would say across industries, it's a nice blend.
Okay.
On average, it's like, let's say 28 to 35.
Okay.
And again, it's people who've been doing something else with their life for a little while and they realize they want to make a better living. They need to improve the financial stability in their company, or they want to make a difference in a job that really isn't what they've been doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy. That was so informative and wonderful talking to you. I am sure the students, the listeners, and everyone that's tuned in today will gain so much from the discussion.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. Like I said, there's not enough people who are talking about or helping people open these doors, and very few people really know what's out there for them. So I'm just thrilled that we can connect the dots for people.
Thank you so much. You're a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.